What's up guys, Nightingale here, and welcome back to another Ultimate Beginner's Handbook video. Today, we're setting up Wyvern 101 with Wyvern NY. That's right, we are just a few videos away from the big spectacle right there. So, let's go ahead and jump into the overview for today. It's actually going to look pretty simple, but I've just kind of got some stuff that we're going to talk about and get you guys set up on why this mentality and where we're going to be going. Make sure to check out the description below, as there will be timestamps, and if there is anything that I see after the fact that I want to point out or draw attention to, they will also be tagged down in there. But for the most part, it'll follow this generic overview. And yeah, let's head over to my main account right here. And I noticed this in the last video, this isn't square. Whoops, let's fix this. It needs to be just a little bit bigger. There we go, that's what she said. All right. So, we've got that fixed. Now, that's not going to bug me when I go edit it later and the resolution's off and you can see the edge. But what we want to talk about today is why Wyvern first. So, a lot of you are brand new players coming into Epic 7, and you're hearing a lot of content creators tell you, you need to go to this one place. Well, where is this one place? Well, first off, you've got to get here. So the good news is the guides are coming out in the order you should be needing the information. Now, obviously, I haven't been able to get these out just immediately after, so some of you who've been playing have already reached this. But the goal is that if you're a brand new player following along with the guides, you're getting this information as you need it. Watching the videos from the very first video to now, you have been getting stair-stepped into the next step. So we're getting close to getting you ready for Wyvern. And we've talked already about the Hunt Expert Challenge, which is giving you the picking out your Wyvern unit or the Hunt unit in general. We've talked about Gearing 101, which is just to introduce you into gear. We've talked about how to get Wyvern unlocked and, well, unlocking things, which was after 1010 is where a lot of this progression stuff really starts happening, and getting your priorities and stuff set up, which is also why the next couple videos are going to be important for you as well. So we're already assuming you know where it's at, but if not, it's here under Battle and Hunts. Now, if this isn't unlocked, you are watching this video too soon. But it still is generic video, it's general information, and it's good to know. So let's talk about why Wyvern first. Well, the first big, really just like, duh factor of this is you're given everything for free now. Absolutely everything. In the Rise update, they gave most everything for free. But now with the Awaken update, everything is free. That's right. So now you not only can get your Wyvern tank, your main Wyvern DPS, your secondary Wyvern DPS, and your main Wyvern DPS all in one. All for free. All you have to do is start playing the game. That's one of the major reasons why we're going to tell players, first off, to go, why Wyvern? It's because you can get the entire team for free in the beginning of the game. You don't have to pull for anything. It's all given to you for free. No RNG revolved around it, nothing. You just got to get in and start playing Epic 7, and Wyvern is ready to go. Next up, also, why Wyvern first? Well, this one's going to come down to because of how the value of this is really going to play out for you as a new player. We have to look at things from a grand scheme of things. What we're going to quickly do is just basically point out why, is because it's really for the speed set that is here. Now, other sets have many other types, and there are players who have had experience or picked other hunts to go forth. You have the attack HP defense set out of Golem. You have the counter lifesteal resist destruction sets out of Banshee. You have the Rage Immunity Unity sets out of Asmonak, and we even have the Revenge, Pen, and Injury sets out of Katie's 13. Now, some of these hunts are significantly harder to get into as a new player, which is also why we say, hey, don't go start doing this hunt, because you're not going to have the gear to do it to begin with. Even with the free gear you're given, it's going to be a lot harder for you to clear something like Asmonak or Katie's. Now, I've seen some players get away with using their Banshee team inside of, or get away with using their Wyvern team inside of Banshee. Golem is fairly easy to get going, but still, the fact that everything's given to you for free for Wyvern, makes this the #1 choice for you to get started. Plus, when it actually comes down to the gear and the gear efficiency for you, this is what you need to know. Right now, as a new player, the speed set is the best thing for you because it's the most efficient set in the game as far as stats is concerned for what you're trying to do. It's giving you a speed buff right out the bat. What this is going to be doing is this is giving you 25% speed to your base stats instantaneously because of the set. Now, being that it has critical set and hit set gives you the next two most important two-piece sets that you're going to be able to obtain. Getting your crit chance up from critical rate and getting your effectiveness up from hit set. Instantly, this is a one-stop shop for new players, which is why this is so important for you to start here. Now, as you get more experienced and as you can get more established in the game, you can do fun, weird crap of saying, I'm going to start a new account and I'm going to go KDs only. Well, you've already got the experience to know how the game works. That's why you can do that. So just because you see some content creator out there saying, fresh new account starting this, doesn't mean you should be doing that because you don't understand the game yet. We're talking specifically to brand new players. Now, sure, you may have a long-term history of playing X Gacha game, but I promise you that there's some things here that you're gonna be needing to get caught up on. The game does have a steep learning curve, and that's what we're here trying to do with the Ultimate Beginner's Handbook, is cut that curve in half so that it's all explained to you in exactly how you need. Now, let's also get into this. Wyvern actually has a couple different barriers of entry. The early stages, as I even showed early on in the tutorial, I was clearing, I think, Wyvern 6, Wyvern 7 with just my basic 4 units that I used coming out of the beating the game, or beating the first episode. Well, now that you're going to get a little bit more established, you'll be able to push this a little bit easier. A lot of players are going to get hung up around 9 to 10. And this is just typically because they don't understand stats, which is why we're working on the Wyvern guide. Now, what I want to point out real quick here is we're going to jump back. I know it's going to feel weird, but what we're going to talk about is this. While we're at this point, this is what you need to know. This is not a Wyvern guide, this video here. This video that is coming soon is the Wyvern guide. This is what you're going to want to watch. This is going to explain everything you need to know about Wyvern. With that said, we're just explaining you that this is kind of how your progression is going to go. You're going to get hung up between 9 to 10. Most players end up having to manual 10 to get into 11, and then 11 is pretty much where you're going to coast until you beat 13. We're going to talk about this in a lot more depth when it comes to the complete Wyvern guide. What we're going to do is we're going to be giving you the complete overview of getting you to Wyvern 13 and getting your team established as best as possible inside the game. So, when we're talking why Wyvern first, the last thing we want to mention is because you're given everything to do it, you have the best, basically, setup to get started, it's the most logical place for you to go. That's why we direct you here, because it's not really that hard to set up. While it may be a little difficult and there are mechanics that you're going to have to learn and understand, that's what that guide's going to be for, is to get you through all that. But then this is the best place for you to get started in the game. It takes a lot of that, what do I do? Because there's so many stats you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn how to gear units. There's so much to go on in the next several weeks for you as you're going to start playing the game. This simplifies things. It's a generic set that's going to go on everybody. And then now you just need to figure out, is it going to be a critical set or is it going to be that hit set? Or is it going to be broken set? Because you can literally take a really good piece of hit and you can take a really good piece of critical and put it on there, or another good speed piece. You'll be able to mix and match as long as you get the 4-piece set of speed in the beginning. It does not matter. Which is why this is so good for new players. Plus, you also have the advantage of the arena shop, which we're not going to go into details. You can check out the guide, which is either going to be updated when you watch this. It'll be in the Ultimate Beginner's Handbook, or if it's still active, it's originally in the original Beginner's Handbook. You can also see what's inside the PvP shop there for the 2-piece sets. But what we're trying to basically get you caught up on is you can see that you can add a few other things to this in the beginning that may or may not help you out. So, next thing we want to talk about is, what advantage does it actually give you? Well, this is kind of going off that last thought that we just had. What advantage does this give you is, this is really the best case scenario for you. The advantage is it's a one-stop shop to be able to get you stat lines. which allows you to simplify your gearing process, which allows you to start playing the game sooner. Now, when I say play the game sooner, you're already playing the game. But what we're talking about is being able to go start building units and getting things built up to an efficiency of usability, because you're going to want to do some other types of content in the game. You're not going to want to just sit in here and play Wyvern Simulator. This isn't Epic Wyvern. This is Epic 7. You want to go out and play the game. There's so much for you to do. We're not joking when we tell new players, you really shouldn't be worried about PvP for the first 6 months. You'll see why as you start playing the game. Now, sure, you can get in and get into it, but to really start being competitive, you don't even want to start talking about that for the first 6 months, because they're going to have roster to beat you with, and they're going to have, honestly, the gear. They're going to gear gap you. You just haven't farmed up enough. Now, sure, everybody's entitled to have some really lucky rolls, and they may actually, I've seen new players get some very good gear very early on. We're not saying that it's not impossible, but chances are the odds aren't going to be in your favor, and you'll be subpar stats. You'll be getting used to it. Plus, getting that learning curve of learning who needs what stats, what's efficient, where are you going to make up that stat from, how to build units, that's going to come over time. Which is why the advantage of coming to Wyvern gives you a early game advantage of just getting stats to get your units usable. In the beginning, it's about getting usable stuff. Later on, it's going to be about getting your secret technologies or your special builds, anything that you can think of to where you want to start expanding your diversity. That's where that's going to come, which honestly does lead us next to when should you expand and go out to the other hunts. This one's a little subjective because there's a couple different thought processes we want to cover. The first way of thinking of this is, you're going to hear this from a lot of content creators of just stay in Wyvern. There's no reason to go out into any of the other ones because you're going to be chasing. While that is true to a certain point, not everybody wants to play that way. Not everybody wants to sit there and play copycat. Some people want to think for themselves. That's what we're doing here, is we're teaching you to think for yourself. We're going to explain everything, and then you're going to come through and go, how do I want to play? Well, he's given me the knowledge on how to obtain this and how to go forth and get my units, figure out how to build my units. Now, how do I actually want to do this? Now, he's given me the keys and the tools. Let me make the most of it. We're not going to tell you where to go and how to go. All we're going to say is this. The typical progression for most new players is, right now, it's coming out of Wyvern. You're going to be trying to finish out your Hunt Expert Challenge, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with this. My personal progression is that it's easier to go to Golem due to mechanics. Now, sure, it requires building you some extra units, but you're trying to get your PvE stuff established anyway, so throwing some extra gear on a few units and taking them to 5-star isn't the worst thing in the world. You're trying to get up that diversity. Like I said, I've had some people talk about beating Banshee with their Wyvern team. It's completely doable, but it's better to do this with grass anyway. So the typical progression that I promote is Wyvern first, just to get started, just because everything's given to you for free. Then, once you've kind of gotten established a little bit and you've gotten into the game, you'll have some gear. You'll start working on Golem after you finish your Hunt Expert Challenge for Wyvern. You'll move over to start working on Golem on the side. You're not going to be trying to farm Golem, but you'll beat that. And then you'll move over to Banshee, depending on whether or not your Wyvern team was good enough to beat Banshee 13. I personally still say you probably want to build grass units because you're going to need some anyway for Abyss, and there's several really good Abyss grass units, especially if you've been following along with the Beginner's Handbook. You were able to pick up Clary for free. You have, hopefully you've pulled Helga at some point, so Mercenary Helga's a fantastic unit. You're given Vivian for free. Now all you need is Mott Moranci is really all you need, and you can probably beat Banshee 13 with relatively ease. Now, there's some other units out there that'll make Banshee a lot easier. As y'all can go see in the advanced, or the intermediate Traveler's Guide, I beat it with Violet, because it's trolly and it's Violet. But then, when people really are looking at what's the next step, we eventually say, okay, if you're wanting to move on and really start advancing out, what's the real next step? Is actually, it's going to Asmonak to get you that first Rage set. Coming here, you farm out that Rage 4-piece set that works for your one-shot unit that you're going to use for Banshee 13. Typically, we tell people to go to Banshee next after Wyvern. Why? Because Banshee 13 is actually a lot simpler to one-shot than it may sound like. Now, I know you're probably going, wait, we're already talking one-shot comps in a beginner's guide? We're not necessarily saying. All we're just letting you know is it's technically the easiest hunt to one-shot, and that's where most players are going to go. And then after that, you can spread out and go wherever you want to go. If you want to become a golem gamer, go for it. We're not going to stop you. Hopefully they put some stuff in there that actually makes it a little more worth. But right now, the HP and the def sets are cool, but keep in mind there are some other valuable things out there. Asmonak really kind of loses a lot of its value after you get your rage sets. Immunity right now needs a buff currently. This is my opinion. I know some vets out there still swear up and down by it. I just call you guys a bunch of sweaty people because you still have some insanely good immunity gear you don't want to quite give up, and you believe in that extra 15% where it's never there for me. My stuff gets stripped every time. And then Katie's is a later thought process because this is a whole other type of monster. You've got 3 really interesting sets that are really, really good here. Just depends on how you want to play the game. Not a single one of these sets are truly, truly horrible. Sure, they could use some tweaking. Sure, they could use some balancing, but nothing here is absolutely, completely unusable. Just determines on how you get around the creative thought process of making it actually viable. Because if you can still obtain the stats you want to obtain, there's nothing wrong with using it. So to finish up, why Wyvern? It's because it's the best stat efficient thing in the game. And honestly, when there's some videos out on my channel where I go in and I kind of talk about why you shouldn't get hung up in Wyvern. And honestly, I'm just going to take a second because we're here about to wrap up. I also want to talk to you guys really quick about something you just want to watch out for. A lot of content creators will go out there and they will tell you to become a Wyvern slave, that you have to speed chase in order to be #1 in this game. You don't. That is a false misconception that is really driven by their personal beliefs. I can tell you from looking at the game, looking at the statistics, and talking with other players. You have players that have reached the highest ranks from playing Banshee only. You have players who have achieved the highest ranks from playing only KDs. It's just that's what they think is the best way to do it. Remember, meta does not mean the best case scenario of winning. It means it's the easiest path to victory, not the best path to victory. The best path to victory is the path that you choose that gets you there with the way you want to play. Now, yes, there are certain benchmarks that will have to be hit. Openers will always have to be lightning fast. Super tanky units will need to still be super tanky in order to do their jobs. You won't be able to build super tanky units to be monster nukes. It's not going to happen. Unless it's in their kit, it won't happen. But what you will be able to do is find the units, figure out the creativity of what works for you in the thought process, and it will help you out in the long run. So that's going to take care of Wyvern and why. We've got a couple things left to talk to you guys about before we get into the big video, which is the Wyvern 101. Now, I know you are probably looking at this to be a Wyvern guide. It's not, because there's so much information I have to talk about that needs its own video. I just want you to know about the process. You may not feel like you've learned something, but if you actually paid attention to what we've said, you might have learned more than you thought here. So if you guys have any questions about the progression, I'm happy to help out. I know this doesn't seem like you may have been taught a lot, but there really is a little more here than you might have believed. Maybe go back and watch it one more time. I'm not saying this for ad revenue. I'm not saying it because I want another view. I'm telling you that you might have missed something, because I promise you, there is some really important information you need to catch as a new player here. So feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'll do my best to help you guys out and put you on the straight and narrow path here. We've got some cool videos coming. We've got Artifacts 101 on the way and Gearing 102. Gearing 102 is going to set you up for Wyvern 101 because you need to know about artifacts and you need to know about how to gear your units a little bit better before we talk about the big thing, which is beating Wyvern 13. So you guys take care, enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one.